You know, one of the huge pickups that happened last season that I feel like kind of got swept under the rug for some reason was the 49ers acquiring Dee Ford. I like to call Dee Ford the Mustang because despite what you would think by looking at him, he's just so fast. I mean, he's one of the fastest guys in the league. He moves so quickly, and that's a huge reason he's been able to be so successful for so long. What's going to happen on this play is that Broncos right tackle is going to go out to have a one-on-one matchup against Dee Ford, and what's unique about this situation is the Broncos actually have a tight end in on this play, and while he is going to be running a route, this is still a good thing for the Broncos, as now Dee Ford kind of has no choice but to try to go as far down as possible. He can't really try to run through or to the inside of that tackle because there is a tight end in the way, and if that tight end is blocking, this is just going to allow him to go straight into a double team, so he doesn't want that. Instead, he really has to run to the bottom half of the screen and then try to get over. And now if you take a look, he's going to run even farther to the bottom half of the screen than a lot of guys would. So this should give the right tackle plenty of time to get back and be in position to block Ford. However, if you take a look, Ford still is able to get by so quickly that the tackle really has no chance. When you're talking about a tackle, the reality is you want to have good hand placement because hand placement is everything, but you can't have good hand placement if you don't have good enough footwork to get over. You can't really blame the tackle for that one. Most tackles wouldn't be able to make that play. Ford just runs so quickly, even though he had to take a longer trip down, he's still able to get past that tackle and get over to make a sack. Handwork really is everything when it comes to an offensive lineman. The whole point of the play is to get your hands in the right spot. Everything else is secondary. The reality is if you get your hands in the right spot, I don't care if you're not as strong and I don't care if you're not as good of a player, you can still probably be okay. But of course, most of what makes a good offensive lineman good is the fact that they're quick enough to get their hands in the right spot and strong enough to not allow their hands get knocked out of the way. And most of what makes a good defensive lineman good is the fact that they're quick enough and strong enough to get around that tackle by using your handwork or footwork to get around them and not allowing great hand placement. Like on this play, for example, now Dee Ford is on the left side of the screen and is going up against the left tackle right there. So, perfect hand placement would be getting your left hand on Dee Ford's right bicep right there, and then getting your right hand on Dee Ford's left side of his body right there. And if you notice, that actually is going to end up happening. So, good play, right? I mean, you got the hand placement that you needed, and as I just mentioned before, hand placement is everything. Well, not exactly. I mean, hand placement is a lot of it, but that doesn't mean that you can be out of position and still have good hand placement and you'll be fine. Take a look at where that Denver Broncos' feet are. I mean, this is not where you want your feet to be if you have this type of hand placement. This is perfect hand placement if you are blocking someone straight up. However, if that guy is 2 feet behind you, then this hand placement isn't going to last for very long because it's very easy for Dee Ford to knock your hands away since they have so much further to go to get to that placement. I'm not saying that that left tackle shouldn't have put his hands there. I'm saying that left tackle should have been able to get a couple of steps further to the bottom half of the screen. But the fact of the matter is, you can't get that far to the bottom half of the screen when you're going up against a guy like Dee Ford who goes as fast as a Mustang. Even despite getting held, he's still able to get the Case Keenum and actually knocks the ball out. So again, tremendous athletic play by Ford. I mean, he just moves so quickly. This next play will show a pretty similar situation, but at a different angle, so I think it'll be more interesting to take a look. Dee Ford is once again going to be trying to break around that tackle, and so what the tackle is going to do is try to run out to try to make a block. Now, I do think it is worth mentioning that there is a very simple way to beat a speed rusher. Like, here's an example of Ford getting beat right now. Basically, what he's trying to do is break around the tackle and then try to hit Carr before he runs past Carr. That's the whole point of this play. So what do you do for your tackle? Well, it's pretty simple. Your whole goal is to push the edge rusher past Carr. Your whole goal is to push the edge rusher past your quarterback and make sure that he doesn't make a sack. That's pretty much all you want to do in that play. It would also be great because if you can do that, this now means that Ford would have given up containment and Carr could even run that way and try to pick up a ton more time. As you notice, this is very different hand placement than that last tackle I showed you. The last tackle tried to continue blocking him straight up and tried to continue blocking him for as long as possible. But really, if you've already been beat, you don't want to do that. I mean, Ford is a fast guy, so he's going to blow by some people. So really what you want to do is what that tackle is doing right now, where he puts both of his hands on Dee Ford's right shoulder. No coach would ever tell you to do this on every single play, but when you get beat, it isn't a terrible thing to do. This now makes it a lot easier to push him past the quarterback and take him out of the play. However, the problem is, if the quarterback takes a little bit of time to try to make a throw, this now means that Dee Ford, who is very fast, is now unblocked. That's kind of one of those other things I love about Ford, is he never quits. Even when he gets blocked behind a quarterback, he's still able to continue running and eventually find a way to get into the play. So now I think plenty of you might be thinking, okay, well now there's a clear way for Ford to get beat, right? All you have to do is let him try to speed rush past you and then push him past the quarterback. It's not ideal, but at least you're taking Ford out of the play on just about every play, right? So isn't that what you should always do? And not really, because he can beat you in other ways as well. Like on this play, for example, he's actually going against Joe Staley, who I'm sure 49ers fans could tell you is absolutely no slouch. And it's going to be basically the same setup. He's going to try to run to the outside, and Staley is basically going to do the exact same thing that last tackle did. Basically what Ford's going to do is just give him a high five on this play. This now means that not only can you not get proper hand placement, but you can't get both hands on his shoulder, because now one hand is tied up with Ford's other hand. From a tackler's perspective, this would make total sense if you were playing a guy who had no hands. However, unfortunately for opposing offenses, Dee Ford does have hands, and because he was able to do that, this now takes the left hand of Staley's out of the way. It means that his right hand is basically on Ford's back almost, which is definitely not a good situation for an offensive tackle, and now Dee Ford is able to blow by him and get to the quarterback. He can get beat, of course, as can anybody. Like on this play, for example, once again, it's a one-on-one block against the right tackle this time, and he's going to do what he does pretty much every play where he tries to speed rush it past him. If you take a look, that right tackle is pretty much in position to try to push Ford back out of the play if he does try to run around him. What Ford's going to try to do is continue to run past the tackle and try to use his speed to his advantage. However, the tackle does a very good job of hanging with him, and now Ford should be pretty much out of the play, and this actually seemingly is a bad play from Ford because now he's almost given up containment and caused no pressure towards Keenum. However, one thing worth noting is he does a very good job of not creating any contact. Well, if you just use GPS location to try to figure out what he was doing, you'd think this is a very bad play from him. If you take a look at the left side of the screen, pretty much the exact same thing happened. However, since there is contact, it would be much tougher for that Chief to then get off his block and try to make a tackle. So Keenum sees that there's no containment on that right side and is going to try to run up. However, because Ford hasn't created any contact, he can simply just run up and make a tackle. He didn't actually give up containment on this play, he just made it seem like he did. I'm talking about speed, but really what I should be talking about is footwork. I mean, really that's the key to it. That's the key to so much as an edge rusher is having good footwork, and Dee Ford's footwork is as good as anybody's footwork in the league. If you take a look at this play, he's on the left side of the screen, he's going up against the right tackle, and one thing you're going to see is he's going to try to go around that tackle on the top half of the screen. But of course, while those are most of the plays I've been showing you so far, he doesn't always do that, obviously. No one always does that. He could be trying to get as close to the tackle as possible while still getting around him, making things easy for him to try to get past that tackle. That's actually what a more traditional edge rusher would do. However, take a look at Ford on display. He's going to still fake as though that's what he's doing, but he's going to actually plant his right foot right before he hits that tackle right there. He actually looks like he's in a pretty wonky situation right now because he has one foot running towards that tackle and another foot running away from that tackle. But this is actually great news for Ford. Because his planted foot is in a situation where he can easily run up, this now means that he can easily get past that tackle while his body is still moving in that tackle's direction, meaning it could be very tough for that tackle to run into him. This now makes things a lot easier for Ford to get past the tackle and get to Derek Carr for a sack. While of course being an edge rusher, typically what people are going to talk about is your ability to get to the quarterback, that's not the only thing Ford can do, and that's not the only way Ford can be effective. If you take a look at this play, for example, a tight end and right tackle are going to have one-on-one matchups right there on the edge, and they're also going to pull their right guard over to block the edge rusher on that right side of the screen, and they're going to pull their center over to be a lead blocker to take out that first linebacker. Because of course he will run over there since this is going to be a run to the right side of the screen. Then all Oakland has to do is have their left guard and left tackle have one-on-one matchups right there, and typically that's all Oakland would have to do. It should be a run through the right side of the screen, so they don't have to worry about Dee Ford on display. They can leave him unblocked because really what are the chances of an edge rusher being able to catch up to a halfback who already has a couple of steps on him? And the answer, well, actually pretty high if that edge rusher is Dee Ford. He easily runs over and is able to get into the play for a loss of yards. I mean, this is just an insane play. Ford is so quick that even when it plays in the complete opposite direction of him, he's still able to find a way to get into the play. And this is just so frustrating if you're an offensive coordinator trying to call plays against this, because what do you do against a situation like this? You pretty much have to have a guy blocking him, even if it is a run to the other side of the field, which really just creates such a frustrating situation for an offensive coordinator, as you almost lose a blocker when you're going up against Dee Ford. You do have to pay him extra attention, or at least pay him some attention, like the Denver Broncos did not do here. What they're actually going to do on this play is have a double team on that interior lineman, and send a halfback to block Dee Ford. I think the point of this play was to try to throw it quickly. However, since nothing was open right away, this is now bad news for Case Keenum and bad news for the Broncos. If you're a halfback going up against an edge rusher, you can't try to block him the same way a tackle would because there's no way you're going to win that battle. Really, the whole point of a halfback in this situation is you want to just lay one big hit. That's your goal. Just lay one hit. Ideally, you want to put your shoulder into the edge rusher's chest. It won't be a great situation, but at least it will cause him to slow down for a couple of seconds, and that could give your quarterback a little bit more time to make a play. But Dee Ford is going to be very smart here. He's not going to try to run over the halfback like a lot of players would. He's instead still going to go around the halfback the same way he would a tackle. This now allows him to easily get past that halfback, who also isn't doing a great job of pushing him back since that's not his job. His job as a halfback, he's supposed to just lay one hit. But because Dee Ford is smart enough to run around him, that's exactly what he does, and it leads to another sack. This next play was one that really jumped out at me when I was watching it on tape, as it's a very unique play. If you take a look, what's going to happen here is it starts off pretty simple. Once again, standard one-on-one matchup against the right tackle. But if you take a look, right after the ball is snapped, he hasn't really moved that much. Everyone else has already started initiating their contact, whereas Dee Ford is still several feet away from his assigned tackle. Basically, he's taking his time to figure out which way the tackle is going to go, and then go in the opposite direction. He obviously loves to run outside the tackle, however, if that tackle were to take a couple steps to that outside, then he would have ran to the inside. I actually kind of think what was happening on this play is that he was thinking that the tackle was going to try to take a couple steps to the outside, and he was going to try to fake as though he was going in that direction and then cut to the inside. But since that isn't what happened, he is still going to then run to the outside and gets past the tackle very easily. Once again, that initial push isn't really enough, and he almost gets the Bortles before he's able to get it off. There was one more play that jumped out at me when I was watching tape, and it was this one. And it's actually something pretty interesting that's going on here. If you take a look, basically the way this play is going to work is they're going to have a right tackle go out to block Ford as if he was just going to try to run over him, and then if Ford does decide to run around him, they have a halfback there who's going to be in the area, and then by the time the halfback makes a block, the right tackle could then get back into the play, meaning that Ford really, no matter what he does, is going to get blocked on this play. However, if you take a look, even with that, Ford is so quick that the halfback still isn't in great position to try to get over and make a block. Ford ends up running past both of them, and despite him getting double teamed, there's almost no contact on the line. The halfback has really nothing to do but try to reach out and grab some jersey, but he honestly can't even do that because Ford moved so quickly. This now means that the only thing Andy Dalton can do is try to run to the right side, but even that isn't going to work out for too long. Ford is able to outrun Andy Dalton and knock the ball away. Dalton does fall on it, but I think this play just shows you how quick Ford is and how that affects your team's chances of being able to be successful. He's one of the biggest pickups this offseason that a team has had, so it really is a bit of a questionable thing that he didn't get more attention. I think probably just because he played in Kansas City for so long, he wasn't as huge of a name as some other guys. But the fact of the matter is, he's a huge pickup, and I fully expect him to be very effective in San Francisco next season. Thanks for watching my video on Dee Ford. I had a lot of fun making it, and I hope you guys had fun watching it, or at least didn't hate it. That's typically my goal on these types of things. And speaking of things I hope my fans don't hate, I recently started both a Twitter and Instagram, so feel free to hit me up and follow on those if you're interested. And as always, thanks for watching my videos.